Joshua Dixon is a 25-year-old fashion designer, photographer, published essayist, and motivational speaker out in Chicago, Illinois. His life drastically changed on December the 5th, 2007, when just at 8 years old, he was viciously attacked by pit bulls, resulting in the loss of 80% of his face. He has a wild story, but what's so interesting about Joshua is not what happened to him, but what he has done as a result of what has happened to him. Joshua's going to share his story with you today, but know that this man is now reaching tens of thousands of people with his new initiative, Admirewear. He uses his clothes to not only share his story, but reach others who feel alone, isolated, and questioning if their life has purpose. And I just freaking admire the hell out of him. So grateful to have him on today's show. If you need to readjust your perspective a little bit, lean in to what you know in your bones you're called to do. I know this conversation with Joshua is just for you.
When I was in a coma, I kind of knew that something was going on. I dreamed the whole time. I remember hearing doctors rushing me around, and I felt my body always moving around. One time my parents argued. I remember hearing that while I was asleep. I guess my spirit being was in like this 3-walled room in the sky. This wall, that wall, and that other wall. But this wall was just the sky, and it was just like sky with some clouds and the sun. Nice warm like atmosphere. And I just had this warm presence that everything was gonna be okay, and that I just needed to rest, and just being comforted in knowing that everything was gonna be okay, and that there was something, I would say God or Jesus, telling me to just rest. Eventually there'll be my time to get back up again. Ever since then, I've always had a belief in God and had a belief in Christianity. No one can ever take that from me. We were raised in a society to undermine our worth, to undermine our strength, and that we are only validated by our successes or what we can provide for others. Everyone should be entitled to be able to love and to respect themselves without going through the fact that we're raised in a society that your worth is what other people see you.
My sister sent me your Instagram several months ago and said, this is someone you would absolutely love, because she knows me very, very, very well. And she was 100% right. I just fell in love with your content, your story, your heart, your message. You are one of those people that I've never met, but can feel your spirit and your presence miles and miles and miles away just through the ecosystem of the internet. And I am freaking thrilled to have Joshua Dixon with us, who is just freaking badass, sharing your story, sharing your heart, building a powerful community online, changing people's lives, saving people's lives, all the things.
Yes.
Joshua, I'm curious, when you're sitting next to somebody on an airplane and they're like, well, so what do you do? How would you summarize and explain to a stranger what you're doing in this world?
Thank you so much for just having me here. The way that I would explain it is that it starts from when I was a kid. I was attacked by two pit bulls, my family's two pit bulls, when I was 8 years old. And as of to now, where I'm sitting here on this plane with you, I've had exactly 62 surgeries, which has allowed me to face a lot of life challenges that most people wouldn't have faced. But instead of turning those tears into pain or anger or regret and resentment, yes, I did have those phases, but I choose to take what I've been through to help others, to be a motivation and inspiration for others to not give up and to hold on to hope. And even though hope isn't always something that we can see, it's something that we can dream of and live up to and kind of build in our minds. So I'm using my story to help others. I'm using my clothing to be a tangible version of who I am, so that others can know that they're loved on days where they may not feel loved, or days where they may not be able to talk to anyone who lets them know that they deserve to be here in this world. This clothing get to be a reminder for that. And my speeches online, or even just my videos online, the way that I am, the way I carry myself in public, also on social media, is exactly the same. It's just living every day as if it's my last and giving everybody a piece of grace and kindness and understanding. You don't know if somebody's going to have a bad day today, but by you giving them a smile, by you giving them a laugh, by you letting them know that they're seen today can be enough to help a person go a long way.
I've interviewed a lot of people, or at 1,000 plus between all the different shows and so forth. And I've interviewed a
Congrats.
handful. Thank you. Interviewed a handful of people who have just been through just horrific things and really physically painful stuff, spiritually, emotionally, and so forth. And I can say with confidence, my experience has been that some of the people who have been through some of the hardest stuff they have like this kind of groundedness, this presence that's, I can't even pinpoint it exactly what it is, but it's just like this unmovability almost, where what you just said it, what you see is what you get. It's very in the present, in the moment, and they're very honest about, it's not just like this airy fairy, like, oh, have hope, life's gonna be fine, yada yada. I mean, it's not like this little whatever. They're very honest about, you know, it's not always easy, and I freaking struggle, and it's hard. And that's one of the things I really love about your content is, even though you've built a community around worth and value and fighting and, you know, making the most of your life and your day, you don't shy away from the fact that you still struggle, and that even recently over the past few years, you know, you tried taking your life at one point or a couple of times. And I'm so curious if you could reflect on what I just said. What is it about going through literal hell that makes you so solid in who you are? Because I think we all envy that. We want to be a little more solid in who we are. You know what I mean? And again, just my experience, people who've been through the most seem like they've figured out who they are.
I mean, I spent a lot of time alone. I definitely can thank my mom for. My mom is a single mom and raised two black boys in the south side of Chicago, so she was really hard and really stern on us. But she made sure that she was there every step of the way with all of my surgeries, with my healing. She was my caretaker. She took care of my wounds and everything, and just raised us in a household with just giving us compassion and allowing us to be comfortable with being ourselves. I kind of always knew that I was different even before the accident, that just the way that I talked with others, the way that I would say bless you to a teacher, even though I never got taught to say bless you. But my dad and my mom said that someone sneezed, and I told that person bless you. And that was then, like, my parents starting to see that, like, Josh is on to something. But having the accident and having to spend some time alone, not being able to be around masses of people because I can get infections, allowed me to spend a lot of time of figuring out kind of who I am and who I wanted to be. I love people. People have always, I love kind of showing me not only their love and their compassion, but I feel like the way that some of us unconventional humans that have been through life experiences, we use our stories as bridges, like as bridges to kind of connect someone who's never been through something like that versus me who's been through something like that. We meet in the middle, and I feel like there's a moment where I learn a lot about that person, and that person learns a lot about me, and we take these lessons that we've learned in this conversation and take them forward in life that helps us ultimately be better. And throughout the years of sharing my story with others, even before I decided that I want to do this full time and I want to dedicate the rest of my life to speaking to others, I really just love sharing my love with people. Even though I've dealt with bullying, I've dealt with hate, I've dealt with people judging me because of the way that I look. I've been physically assaulted a few times because of the way that I look. I've even been removed from a restaurant because of the way that I look
Are you
in a whole
joking?
different state. No, I'm not joking at all. And most
Damn.
of these things happen from adults. Like, most of the cruelty that I've been through, even when I was a kid, before I even became an adult, was from adults than it was kids. And so I would say 16, having my first suicide attempt, and my mom forcing me to go to counseling. I remember looking online. I had Facebook at the time, and I really wanted a figure, a public figure to look up to. It's like I'm in such this peril where I'm about to be an adult soon. I'm about to go out here into this world as an artist. At the time, I was doing photography, and I still am as an artist, but become an adult. I don't know if I want to go out there. I don't know if I want to be a part of society the way that I've already experienced it.
Mm.
It's like I'm really, really scared of that. And I was searching. I couldn't find anyone who fit similar shoes than I do currently. Someone who's been through some sort of physical disability or some sort of face impairment, and they're out there just conquering the world. And so I made it a promise to myself that even though I don't see this person that I would like to look up to, it shouldn't stop me from believing that it exists. So if I can spend the next few years becoming who I would have looked up to at 16, then that means that older me will look up to this version. Younger me will be able to look up to this version. And there will be 16-year-old Joshes out there around the world who will be on social media one day
Yeah.
looking for someone to look up to, and they will find me, and they won't have to go through a lot of the pain and a lot of the hurt that I had to work my butt off through when I was 16, because I'm helping them have the tools to help them love themselves and take care of themselves and allow them to be okay with being uniquely, authentically themselves, not even just being weird, just
Yeah.
understanding that, like, if this is how you feel, this is who you are. Just lean into your child, like your inner child. Lean into your personality. It's not about fitting in. I used to try to fit in for so long and realizing I would never fit into places where I wanted to fit in. But by being myself and spending years doing that and just giving out the love that I think others deserve and I think this world deserves, I've been able to build a strong community, even an internal community around myself that loves and cares about me, even on my good days and even on my bad days. And I think that's the most valuable part to getting through a journey like mine.
I have a lot of questions for you. Just
Go
a
for
lot.
it.
So just freaking buckle in. Buckle in. But oh, I want to talk about your outlook on the world. There has to be, I know, I believe you're a pretty spiritually conscious person, and I believe you have to have some element of that to really say what you just said after people have treated you the way that they've treated you. There's something supernatural there, my friend. We'll get to that in a second. But let's, how old are you right now?
25.
You
So
sound young.
it's been almost 10 years since I made that promise to myself.
You are so young. Oh my gosh, 25 years old. I'm about to turn 38. Little to
It's a
perspective.
blessing.
It is. You're not. I was thinking about that yesterday. It's a freaking gift. Getting older. Bring me back to 8 years old. Just for folks who haven't heard your story. You're, I believe, coming home from school one day.
hmm
Catch us up. What happened?
Coming home from school was really winter day here in Chicago. A little bit of a blizzard had just happened that morning on the way to school. And at 8 years old, I wasn't as tall as most 8-year-old boys. Like I didn't hit my growth spurt yet. So I was really, really short. Maybe like 4 foot something. But coming home from school, running through the snow, trying to get home, but also, I was getting chased by bullies on the way home. And there's a certain like neighborhood route that I would usually take to get to my house to like avoid the bullies,
Why were you being
which
bullied?
it's okay. Long story short, my dad is like the neighborhood's mechanic, and my dad owns, like, at the time owned motorcycles, go karts, and like all of these things. So like basically, I had the dream dad that everyone wanted. Everyone thought he was the coolest dad ever because he had all of these machines in his backyard and all, like, we kind of had one cool car, but really it was like the motorcycles and go karts, and people
Yeah.
were really jealous of watching me and my brother riding on those go karts and motorcycles when they didn't have access to that. So I would get bullied at school and around the community by kids that were my own age and basically just bullying me for having the dad that I had, basically.
Wow. Okay.
And I was really, really smart too. So even when in class, I would always raise my hand. And even if the answer wasn't right, majority of the time the answer was right. And so they were like, oh, you're just a smarty, good shoes. I can't say all of the words that they were saying. It was just a regular day. Like I was used to it at that point. And I try not to let my parents see the bullies by the time I get home because I don't want my mom and my dad fighting with parents and fighting with other kids. I just like to keep the peace. I've been like that my whole life. I love to keep the peace and I love to try to handle things the best that I can on my own without just disrupting others' peace. But coming home from school a little late, the route that I took ended up having more snow and wasn't shoveled yet. So little Josh just trying to truck through the snow, ended up getting home about maybe 10 minutes late. And where I am living, if your kid's 10 minutes late, you're gonna probably panic because you're just so used to them making home at a certain time. Opening I used to enter in from the backyard. I wasn't old enough to have keys yet, and I lost track of things easily at that age. Like
Sure,
I
your
wasn't,
hands.
yeah, I wasn't responsible for house keys, so we
Yeah.
always left the back gate unlocked, and it was a really tall back gate, and we always like the dogs were there. And for years, I never had a problem with coming in with seeing the dogs. The dogs grew up
These
with
are pit bulls,
me.
right? Your
Yeah, these
family
are pit
wanted.
bulls. Yeah, our family pit bulls. We grew up with. Well, I grew up with them. I raised some of them. They would sleep in the room with us, no problem. But my dad had got rid of all the puppies besides one. We kept the girl dog. The girl dog ended up being my dog. And then my dad got an offer from one of his friends. Was like, "Hey, I know you've been raising pit bulls for about 10 plus years. You don't mind if you babysit my dog for a few months? Let my dog breed with your dog, make some puppies, and then I'll pay you for the puppies." My dad was like, "Well, we don't do dog breeding no more. We kind of gave it up. We don't want to do it no more, but we do need the money. So let's just go ahead and do that." So we ended up having one dog that's external to our family and one dog that grew up with us. That part of the story is really important because people think that the boy dog who started the accident was the one, like, was just a family dog that just had like a freak accident. But no, this dog endured a lot of physical trauma and emotional trauma way before we even got this dog. This dog used to be an underground fighting dog, a dog fighting dog, and we didn't know that. Well, I didn't know that, and my mom didn't know that until after the accident. But coming home from school, opening the gate, and the boy dog ran out of the yard. And my dad had always told us, like, hey, if one of the dogs get out the yard, do your best to try to get the dogs back in the yard. I trained them to listen to you guys. They should listen to you. I don't really want to go chase a dog. They should know to listen to you. So I pulled the dog back into the yard and closed the gate. And when I closed the gate, I slipped on ice. When I slipped on the ice, that's when that boy dog used it as an opportunity to attack me and to just initiate, kind of start this brawl. So it was a tug of war between that dog, the boy dog, and the girl dog, which is my dog. And even though she caused half of the damage and he caused the other half of the damage, because basically tug of war with my face, I knew instinctively that the boy dog was trying to pull me into the garage where I would die. Like I knew that instinctively, and the whole time I'm screaming stop, but I knew instinctively that that was going to happen if the dog tried to drag me into the garage. But as a little 8-year-old, I wasn't strong at all to them. But thankfully for the girl dog, even though she caused half of the damage, she did the best that she could to try to pull me towards the house. So it's one dog pulling me to the garage, the other dog trying to pull me to the house. And in 2 minutes, I lost 80% of my face, both ears, my nose, my upper and lower eyelids, my left eye, and my cornea and my left eye is still there, but my cornea got shattered. It's a big gash in my cornea on my left side, so I'm not able to like fully see out of that side. It's very blurry. And my mom was next door seeing if I was there because the day before I was at their house, the neighbor's house. And my dad was just going outside. He didn't even hear the screams, didn't hear the barking, didn't hear anything. He just went outside. Something told him to go outside. He went outside in the backyard and just saw me. Saw the dog standing on top of me and saw me bloody, and
Were they
without a
still attached
face.
without you, or were they done?
No, when my dad came outside, and I would say he took like a few steps out from the basement and onto the ground level of where we all were. Us three kind of acknowledged his presence. I guess like everything stopped. The dogs looked at him. I looked at him.
Oh
I'm
wow.
in shock at this point. I don't like I would say like after the first maybe 30 seconds or so, I lost all pain. Like I didn't feel any pain after that. It was just like all shock. My dad just started screaming and he came and picked me up and brought me in the house and sat me on the couch in the living room. And I kept I had to ask them, why am I so cold? And why can't I see? Because at this time I have blood all in my eyes. I can't really see like that at this point. This eye is like, I mean, it just took a dog tooth to the eye. So this eye is very, very blurry and bloody. And he's just holding me and let me know that everything is going to be okay. And he's just screaming. So then eventually my mom ended up coming back into the house just to see if my dad saw me or whatever. She ended up coming back in through the front door where my dad was sitting, and she saw me. She saw me holding me. She went back, called the paramedics. The paramedics finally came, and they put me and my dad in the ambulance while my mom dealt with the dogs and the police. And my dad was just in so much of a shock he couldn't answer any of the questions that the paramedics were asking him, even though I don't have a face at the current time. Answered all of the questions, told them about school, told them about how old I was, my address, and told them about how well I was doing in school and what was my favorite subjects. Whole entire time while I'm bleeding out in the back of the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And the last thing I remember is when we finally got there, when they took me in an emergency room, I guess that I blacked out from that moment on, from just the loss of blood, and the temperatures changing. So they said because of the grace of God, it was really cold. I think it was like maybe 15 or 20 degrees that day. So a lot of the blood stayed inside my body. I didn't bleed out as fast as I would have if that was the summer. I had a leather jacket on and I had thick snow pants on. So even though the leather jacket had endured dog bites and the pants as well, nothing like below my chin was bitten or affected. So my whole body was fine. Just the whole face was just gone. So they're just really lucky for that. And my neck was protected by the collar to the coat, to the leather coat. So they weren't able to get to my neck at all. And they spent the next 26 hours working on me and saving my life and stabilizing me, giving me technic shots, and just taking off all of the damaged skin.
Damn. Do they think if your dad hadn't come out that you would have died? Were the dogs still going at you?
Probably, more than likely, more than likely. He was the only reason why they stopped. It wasn't because of just, oh, they got tired. He was the reason why they stopped when they came out there, because my dad had such an authority figure over the dogs. He's the one that raised them, trained them.
Yeah.
So they stopped when they saw him, and I was just laying there in a puddle of my own blood.
Because the male dog, I think I heard you say he had been in the family for like 6 months, or he'd been for a
Yeah,
few months. It wasn't like he
yeah.
was the first night there. I mean, he'd
No,
been,
like 6 or 7 months or so.
and then your brother was there too, right?
My brother was on his way home from school at the
Okay.
time that I was being attacked. So when he finally got home, I think no one was home at that time.
Yeah.
Mom had already took care of the dogs. Mom was already on her way to the hospital. Dad was already in the waiting room, just freaking the heck out, because he's by himself at the hospital. Like they took me back a while ago, and he's just in the waiting room, covered in my blood and just freaking out. My brother came home and he didn't know what was going on, and I think my grandmother picked him up from the house and told him what happened.
Do you remember this? Like, are you recounting from things people have told you, or do you remember all of this?
I remember all of this.
Wow.
I remember every single detail. I just try to be PG-13 for
Right.
for the talk, for the interview purposes, and I don't,
Yeah.
it's just really graphic. So I try to remember like how to say it without getting
Yeah,
too
yeah.
in depth with gruesome details, but I remember everything. And the part about my grandmother and my brother, I just got told that after the fact. And
Yeah.
the dog being a former fighting dog, my dad told me that a few years after the accident.
So that's, tell me if I'm, these are all Heather's assumptions for listening to your story. That's just trauma one. Because as a little boy who's been through that, you said 65 surgeries, something like that.
62 up until
62 surgeries as a
yeah,
little boy, young man,
yeah.
walking through your teenage years with that. I know you can't go over the entire process. It's been so long, but high level, what does that look like for a little boy? Like, how long did you stay in the hospital? When were you able to go home? What did it look like from there?
They placed me in a medically induced coma for a month.
A month?
After a month, 1 month, a medically induced coma. First, they didn't really know whether there was any brain damage or anything. They, because I was responding in the ambulance, is really the only thing they can go off of. This time, the medical team had no interaction with like physically conscious Josh. Only the ambulance personnel had interactions with Josh. So the medical team was just like, for the safety of Joshua, we're gonna put him in a medically induced coma for 1 month. We're gonna do some intensive surgeries on his face and on his body to remove skin from places of his body to reconstruct his face. Because as a kid, kids like to touch things, they like to pull things and everything. So they were just like, for the best of it, it's best that we leave him unconscious while we do these intensive repairs, and then wake him up when we think we're ready to like see what's his mental state and to see how is he going to handle that his whole life has changed and this is what it is now. So they kept me in a coma for a month. I This is December 5th, 2007 when I had the accident. Around maybe 2:57, maybe 3 p.m. They woke me up on my mom's birthday, which is January 8th, 2008. They woke me up on her birthday. I woke up to my mom standing over me, screaming and hollering about that he's awake and everything. And I got the chicken pox because my nerves were just haywire. I got the chicken pox like the next day. My nerves were just too much in shock from waking up and enduring a lot of the pain that I felt when I was waking, like as being awake and finding out about all of this. I just caught the chicken pox, like just like that.
Wild. Your body will do that. Like
Yeah,
that kind of stress, just, man.
I would say I was in the hospital for 3 months, so that's including the 1 month in the coma. I had to learn how to talk, walk, write, and eat again because I lost majority of the muscles that we use to smile, to we use to curl our lips to help us from drooling or help us from spitting food out when we're eating. So I basically my lips are pretty much paralyzed. I would like to describe them as that. They couldn't move as much as they used to. So I would like put food in, food would just come right back out. Also, some of the muscles we use to smile are also a part of our jaw muscles. So my jaw wasn't as strong anymore. Also, because I was in a coma for a month and I was a kid, while being in a coma for a month, my muscles just got really weak and I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to strengthen those muscles so I can walk again, and had to learn how to write again because those muscles hadn't been used in so long. And it
Is
was it
there
was a lot.
is there any? This is a messy question,
Go for it.
but like, I guess knowing that a month of your life you were in a coma, you were so little, so I don't know if that really like hit you or what that meant. But like as a grown up, I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, that's pretty heavy to think about being a month of your life is you're asleep. Like as a grown man, how do you like? Does that even bother you at all, or do you have any repercussions of that, or was it just kind of like a memory that happened since you were so little?
When I was in a coma, I kind of knew that something was going on. I dreamed the whole time while I was in a coma.
No way.
Most like the beginning part of the coma, I remember hearing doctors and rushing me around, and I felt my body always moving around. And I remember just like some one time my parents argued. I remember hearing that while I was asleep. I guess my spirit being was in like this three walled room in the sky where there's three walls, like this wall, that wall, and that other wall. But this wall where I'm kind of at was just the sky, and it was just like sky with some clouds and the sun. Nice warm like atmosphere for sure. And I just had this warm presence that everything was gonna be okay and that I just needed to rest. And where I was my perception in a dream, I was in a corner of the room, more closer to the floor. Couldn't really see my body or anything, but I just knew that I was just looking out into the sky in this three wall room with no furniture, no nothing, just walls and floor, and just laying there and just being comforted and knowing that everything was going to be okay and that there was something, I would say, God or Jesus telling me to just rest, just get your rest and just rest, and eventually there'll be my time to get back up again. And the day when it was time to wake up, I just remember standing up in that dream, and then next thing you know, I'm opening my eyes to see my mom for the first time. And ever since then, I've always had a belief in God and had a belief in Christianity. No one can ever take that from me. People like
Since
to say, think,
since
yeah,
feeling that you've since then believed in Jesus,
yeah,
Christianity.
yeah. And that's just like unbreakable for me. Like I don't talk about it often, but that's just like in my heart that I know that there's something outside of me that's real, and I'll never forget that experience and that warm presence that I had while I was in that coma. One
Well,
month
you
of my
don't talk
life.
about it a lot. Can we talk about it now?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so curious about that because fast forward into recovery, and you had to spend. You tell me. I know it was months, if not years. I don't know. Kind of
three
honestly.
months and 3 months in the hospital, and then I spent the next 5 years homeschooled. So my classroom was my kitchen table, and I read books every day, pretty much all day for 8 hours for five
Couldn't
years.
spend time with outside kids. It had to be people who you lived with because of
Yeah,
infection, right?
yep.
Yeah.
And that's how I fell in love with roses.
And I want to get to that in a second. Let's put a pinpoint there. My question to you is: after experiencing God, this presence, this warmth, and then emotionally going through the next few years of literal isolation. None of this was your fault. It happened to you, but it's like the quote punishment of it. You
Oh
have to
yeah,
what you have to carry that.
yeah.
And I'm just how did you wrestle with that, then experiencing this loving God and then the frustration and the meanness of this world, and kind of wrestling with the coexistence of both of these polar opposite truths that you've
Hmm.
experienced?
There was good times and there was definitely a lot of bad times, and really I would have a lot of anger when I experienced the most pain or when I came back from surgeries. And oh my god, I've been through some of the worst surgeries I've ever could even imagine. I mean, I didn't know they were physically possible. Since my mom was always the one there, she dealt with a lot of the anger that I had going through the the earliest years of my recovery, because I was just like, if God loved me, why would He do this to me? Like, why did it have to happen to me? What did I do to deserve this? And to know that basically the life that I once lived is now over, and now I'm living this whole new life where I can't see out this eye. And then eventually I learned that I didn't have ears anymore, and learning how like people were looking at me, looking at how my family was looking at me, and looking at myself in the mirror was just so unrecognizable. It's like I knew that that was me, but it was just like how did we get here? And then seeing the transformations from each surgery, basically each surgery caused me to have a different face, and it would be hard and just a difficult adjustment to kind of comprehend all of this as an 8 year old. I did the best that I could. And starting by taking ownership of what was going on was the start of me kind of rebuilding some strength and some resilience. I had a surgery where they were supposed to put just balloons in my forehead They're called tissue expanders, and they were gonna pull the skin down, pull the once the balloons got big enough, they take the balloons out, and then there's just like this flap of extra skin. And they use that skin, they pull it down, and they would use it on the areas where they need it. I wasn't aware that they were also thinking about putting balloons in my stomach, because when I was in this coma, they took pretty much almost all the skin from my stomach and put it on my face. And then it left this really ugly scar on my stomach. And when I woke up from the coma, I started to see all of these scars and all of these different places where they've been taking skin to rebuild my face, because I didn't have no skin on my face. They had to work piece by piece. Also, I have a small body, very frail little skinny boy body. So there isn't really much area for them to take skin. So they're taking skin from multiple places to cover just such a big face. So while my doctor was in surgery, he was like, "Hey, well, Joshua doesn't like the way his stomach looks. We're just gonna put these two on his forehead, and we're gonna put two in his stomach, and then we're gonna blow with the ones on the stomach, going to expand, and we're gonna pull him down. He's gonna have a tummy tuck. He's gonna have a beautiful stomach one day when all of this is said and done, and that'll help him into his adulthood." I thank him for that. But in the meantime, this hurt like living hell. I woke up from that coma in so much pain. I would definitely say that's one of the most, if not in the top three of the most painful surgeries of 62 surgeries I've ever had in my life. And I woke up from that surgery. I couldn't eat. I had to like hold a pillow over my stomach just to cough. I was in excruciating pain, and I refused basically all medical care for the next 5 or 6 or so hours until my doctor came back to me and apologized for causing this level of pain and not telling me about it ahead of time. I was kicking people, I was punching people, I bit someone, I was not having it. And they even tried to like put me back to sleep, but because I was just freaking out, they were like kind of like not wanting to come in the room. And my mom was pretty much okay with it, because I was fighting her too. But after a while, she understood where I was coming from. So she's like, you know what? Since Joshua wants to know what's going on with his body, also, she didn't even know about this was going to happen in the surgery either.
He didn't
So
ask.
he didn't ask. He just did it. So she was like, okay, well, don't come in the room until Dr. G comes back. That's his nickname. That's what we called him. Dr. Gottlieb finally came into the room about 12 or 1 in the morning, and he sat down with me and and I told him, like, this hurts, this freaking sucks, and why would you cause so much pain to me without telling me? Like, I know that you're helping me get better, but I would like to be a part of the process, because you guys are not doing this to yourselves. You guys are doing this to me. You guys not doing this to my mom. You don't know what this pain feels like. This is just unbearable. Like, I remember some of these surgeries, like I would just be thinking, like, why am I alive? Why am I dealing with this? Like, this is a lot. So after having a talk with him, he agreed. It was like, okay, I'm sorry. Going forward, he's like, I didn't think you would be able to handle me telling you. He's like, going forward, every decision I make, I'll tell you about it ahead of time, and I'll even have you write your signature on the consent page, and then your mom's gonna follow yours, because my mom's legal guardian. So my signature as a kid doesn't matter legally, but hers does. So going forward, every surgery that I did had my signature and my mom's signature. I knew everything about everything. He basically brought all the medical terminology into layman's terms so I can understand it for the next 17 years that I've still been with him. And we have a great relationship. He's like a godfather of mine now. And that was the initial bonding moment that really like helped me really start building some of that resiliency and agency for standing up for myself and being who I am, starting to be who I am today, leading into that leadership of myself. And he was really amazed that I wanted to be a part of that process. And I loved it. The hospitals are cold and blue, yes, but there's such a warm side to them too. There's loving hospital staff that takes care of you, that smiles and cries with you, and plays Uno or watch Spider-Man 3 with you. They watched Spider-Man 3 with me, and gave like We shared birthdays together. I mean, there's a lot, but we had to go through, me, my mom, and my team had to go through some really hard times with me psychologically dealing with the adjustment. And even when I finally remembered the accident, because I had amnesia, I didn't remember the accident when I first woke up. And they were instructed to not tell me anything regarding the accident unless I told them first. Because telling someone who has short term memory loss about the memory loss can cause permanent damage, permanent psychological damages. And one day I just had a dream. I just had like a very vivid, painful dream and cold sweats. And when I woke up, I remembered everything. Like it was just like maybe 2 weeks after waking up is when I remembered everything, and because no one knew what happened. Everyone knew the dogs attacked me. I came up from school. 80% of my face got ripped off, nose, ears, and left eye, and all of that. No one knew what led up to that. No one knew what happened. They only knew what my dad saw when he grabbed me. And so everyone was pretty much puzzled for like a month and a half until I finally remembered and I was able to piece it into pieces that everyone was a little curious about. And I told everyone everything, and it was a very sad, somber moment to sit there with 20 plus people surrounding you and going gruesome detail about what exactly happened that day up until my memory flatlined, which is what I told you when I went to the hospital. And I remember seeing all white, and I think I passed out from that moment on. I think that's when the surgery and everything, like the emergency surgery and everything started, and the coma started.
Tell me about these roses.
Maybe a year or so after the accident, my mom got tired of me looking out the window watching neighborhood kids play. I was still going through a lot of surgeries at this time. Within 5 years of from the accident, and up to 5 years after, I was having surgeries, if not every month, every other month, or every 3 months. So I'm having a lot of surgeries. I'm in the hospital a lot, and my mom always knew that I loved gardening. Gardening. I would always garden with her, plant flowers with her, plant vegetables with her. It was my favorite thing to do. I've been doing it since I was 3. And my mom went and got 3 rose bushes, one red, one yellow, and one white. She brought them home. And I was still in the window then. And she came to me, showed me the roses. And she's like, "We're gonna plant these roses, and these roses will be your friends when you can't have friends." And they were. We planted them. They didn't really grow for 2 years, but I went out there, watered them, trimmed them, talked about life with them, and eventually they started to bloom. They started to blossom, and I got to grow with them as they were growing. They went from really small roots to really big bushes by maybe the time I was 14 to 15 years old. They were huge by then, taking up so much area. One particular day, I remember maybe about being 10 or 11 years old with the roses, and it was one spring. I remember that they were all blooming like a day or two ago. But now today, one of them is wilting. It's the white one. The white one was in the middle of the red and yellow. And it was wilting. I got really sad because I was like, man, I'm like, the season just started, and I think it's going to be gone for the rest of the season. Like, that bummed me out. Like, it made me sad. And I was just watered them and trimmed them. And I would say, like, a few days, maybe a week will pass. And I'm out there with the roses again. And I realized that the other 2 roses are now looking sick. While this white rose, which usually looks sick, is now blooming, but now it's not white no more. It's kind of this red, orange, and white combination. And I thought about it as if these roses gave a piece of their life to help this rose live. And I thought about it in terms of myself. Like, I'm too am a rose. I too have thorns. I too am resilient like these roses. I can have seasons of growth and many seasons, if not years, of wilting and pain. But it doesn't mean that I'm not going to recover. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to get through this. Sometimes it takes others pouring into me in order for me to grow and blossom into the rose that I'm meant to be. Just like these roses poured from their glass into this particular rose. Now this rose is living its beautiful life. And those roses, they didn't die. They were just like, they looked a little frail. And that was a really beautiful moment for me where I kind of started to build my own psychology, or not psychology, but my own way, my own mindset at looking at life and looking at the world, and having this introspective. Because at the time, I'm already being judged by kids. I'm being judged by adults, and they're making fun of me. My mom having to fight them, and all of this stuff. I felt like an outcast in society. So going through these years with roses and kind of getting some engagement with community and people who liked me, I really started to like build kind of this, can't think of a word for it, but this study of mindset and thought for how I viewed the
The
world and
word
how I
theory
viewed life.
coming up for me.
Huh?
Is it theory?
Yeah.
A
My own
philosophy? Philosophy.
philosophy. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. I started to build my own philosophy about how I see the world and how I would like to see the world and how we could do some things better. I've always been a problem solver, and going through the pain that I went through from people, while I'm also going through hospital pain. Like, I'm going through all of these surgeries just to be normal.
Mm.
Like, that was the goal. It wasn't to be stable. I was stable when I got sent home. I had the option to continue to have surgeries to look like old Josh, which that ended up not happening, but I ended up being happy with the way that I look. And the agreement was, we can keep doing some of these skin graft surgeries and reconstruction, because a lot of these surgeries never been done before. As long as I'm willing to devote the research from my surgeries to science and to the medical industry of burn reconstruction, cancer reconstruction, and skin donation. So I'm like, all right, cool, we can do that. So as of to right now, as a 25-year-old, a lot of the surgeries that they're doing right now for burn survivors, people who've lost masses of skin, essentially lost masses of skin and muscle and bone, are probably reading the research and the data from my surgeries from my doctor, who's released several medical studies and books and done many not press medical conferences on facial reconstruction. There's many people around the world who's benefiting from my surgeries that I went through, because I went through them for the first time and we had success on those surgeries, and now there's people who are building their careers off of that. And it allowed me devoting myself to research and to the betterment of others, allowed me to also become to the point where I could be happy with the way that I look in a mirror. I could be happy with how I take a step outside the house and smile and everything. Like, I used to not be able to smile, now I could smile.
Come on. I know we're right at 10:30. Do you have about 10 more minutes? Is that
No,
okay?
I got a good 25 more minutes for you.
Good. Okay. Sorry.
No, it's cool. It's a big story, and I know
And
there's a lot to cover.
let's catch everybody up to where you're at now, and then I have just a big question for you that we can kind of try to wrap things up with. At some point, you decide to turn on your cell phone and put out content on this wild thing we call the internet, which is a big decision, and it's not a decision you just make once. It's a decision you make every day
Yeah.
because it's a grind. It's a thing. What made you decide to start building an online platform?
During the midst of the pandemic, I was living with my ex partner at the time, and it was a very abusive relationship. And going through the cups of college, going through working a full time mechanic job, the stress of that relationship, and just the stresses of life from people still treating me different, I relapsed and I had a suicide attempt. And I tried to end my life in my car. I didn't crash or anything, but I tried to crash my car 3 times. And each time that I swerved the steering wheel to crash into a light bulb, because I didn't want to hurt no one. See, that my whole life, I've never wanted to like bring anyone into things. I just want to always help people. But I wanted to pick a light pole, crash my car into it, and not survive it ultimately. But every time I swerved my wheel, my car stayed straight the whole entire time. Brand new car, just bought the car off the lot. Brand new car. 2021, it's 2020. Yeah, December 2020. I just bought a 2021. There's no steering alignment problems. Like, this car barely has maybe 500 miles on it at this point. Yeah, I tried to crash the car 3 times, and on the third time, steering wheel just stayed straight. So I was like, you know what? That's God saving my life today. And if he's going to save my life today, then I can't waste what he's just given me. And I decided to go see my dad. My dad is an alcoholic. He's a full-time alcoholic, and I really wanted to drink. Once I survived those three times to crash my car, I was like, man, I really want to drink. But I was like, you know what? If you go get that drink, you might become an alcoholic for the rest of your life. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go look at my twin, because me and my dad, we're both the same. We have the same body type. We have the same jaw structure. I'm just taller. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go see him. Pretty sure he's probably drunk right about now anyways. And I drove all the way to his house, went to go see him. I told him about the attempt. I didn't tell no one else, didn't call anyone. I went and told him everything, told him about my relationship and everything. And he set a bottle of Jameson right in between both of us. I had a bottle of Gatorade. He set a bottle of Jameson in between both of us. He was like, real men don't cry. He was like, if you need a drink, you can have it. He's like, I know you're here not to have a drink, but if you want one, you can have it. I'm not going to judge you. You're already 21. It's okay. After this whole time, really, I just went there just to stare future me in the face if I went and got that drink. I didn't really go there for much support. It was really just figuring out where to go forward, because I just got a second chance at life. Sitting there, not taking a shot, I took my dad to the liquor store because he ran out of liquor. Brought him back home, and I went and hung out with my mom and told her everything. And we have a plan, a suicide recovery plan, where if I ever attempt suicide again, the rules are I have to eliminate what caused the attempt, basically take that out of my life. I have to do the things that I love the most, which is like playing video games, going hiking, and being with loved ones, and eating pizza and honey buns, because those are my favorites. And I have to immediately check myself into counseling, whether it's through healthcare or whether it's through paying for it out of pocket. Healthcare told me 6 months. I was like, I'd probably be dead in 6 months, so we're not going to wait that long. I was working as a mechanic at a bike shop, so I took all of my savings and put it into counseling, put it into therapy, and it was started BetterHelp. And being in that therapy session with my therapist, her name is Erica. She taught me the power of affirmations, and really from that moment on, I undermined the power of words. I always believed sticks and stones would break my bones, but words would never hurt me. But it's false. Words actually do hurt, and it really hurts from those who we care about most. If someone who loves you says something hateful towards you, you really listen and hear that for a really long time. So being in that recovery, I had to figure out, like, what do I want to do with these next 80 years potentially of my life? Like, I've been through all of this pain, this turmoil. I've been through abuse from my dad growing up. I've been through bullying, the dog accident, all of this. Like, what do we do with this trauma? Because this trauma is consuming me right now, and people want me to stay alive, but I don't necessarily want to do that because this is just too bearing. So how can I learn to take care of myself and to love myself for the very first time, when I thought I've been doing it this whole time, but obviously probably not the best of it? But how can I start right here, right now, starting a self-love journey and choosing to win at life rather than just surviving all of this turmoil and dealing with it at night when I go to sleep. And one day, coming home from work, I had suffered an injury at work, and this time I'm still like, because I still had to work a job and I'm still in college, I still had to drive that same car, and I didn't feel safe in this car.
Yeah.
So my mom would have to call me and like talk to me about random things on the way to work and on the way home. So getting home, there's this mirror I've been bullying myself in front of for 10 plus years in our basement. And I went down there to this mirror, and instead of standing there and bullying myself for the way that I look or the way that that I'm not performing at my greatest, I was like, you know what? Like, looking at my mirror, I'm just saying, I admire you. I admire you for not giving up and that we got this, because I sometimes talk to myself in the third person, that we got this. And that moment sparked something in me. It was like, yo, this is it. Like, this is the start of something. This is the first time that I've ever appreciated and admired myself for everything that I've gone through, for everything that I've done for others, for everything that I've done in life outside of the pain that I've gone through. This is the first time I've actually given myself essentially my own roses. 3 days later, I wanted to eventually turn this into a project and turn it into something where I can help kids like myself who are struggling with suicidal ideation and who don't want to tell their family, but they're struggling on the inside. They're struggling because I'm the strongest person in my family, if not one of them. But people call me the strongest. But yet, I had 2 suicide attempts. And I think some of the strongest people that we have in our lives may be struggling. We don't know it because they're just taught to not show those emotions. And I really started to tap into that vulnerability as a strength, not as a weakness, understanding that this toxic masculinity that my dad raised me up in, I don't have to abide by that. I can be masculine in my own way and let that be who I am. I applied to, Adobe, the people that created Photoshop. They have a creative residency. This time I'm about to graduate college. I'm thinking about post grad. I'm in college for photography. So I was like, you know what? I want to apply to their residency program and I want to use I Admire You as my project to create affirmations for kids and to share my story through my suicide recovery and the knowledge and the wisdom that I've learned throughout the years, even before my suicide attempts, to help people who really probably need it. I made it through the second round. They said my idea wasn't strong enough. I'm like, okay, cool. That's fine.
Mm.
But in September of 2021, I decided to launch the brand anyway with this one design that says "I admire you," and it's me with my hand over, like me making a heart with my hand, like exactly how my hands are right now, giving love to myself, but also giving love to others, and letting people know that they can admire themselves. And that's a choice. That's a choice that we can choose, that we might not know that we can choose, is to admire ourselves rather than always relying on others admiring us to validate our own self-worth. And I sold 13 shirts. I didn't get much feedback until October. And then October came and people who were wearing the shirts told me they were like sleeping in them. They were wearing them all the time. They were wearing them on the rough days, and it helped them love themselves when they thought that they actually did love themselves, but it taught them that they kind of didn't, and that they can start in this moment to love and admire themselves and to give themselves a hug. And that was just a little trickle that I held on to, and I had amazing people around me who told me to just keep leaning into that. They're like, we
Mm.
see that you're happy. We know that you went to school for photography. You did not go to school for fashion design, but you're doing something and you look happy and you look motivated by this. So let's lean more into it. Let's see what happens. So just keep doing it little by little. And I can say that I started to just lean into it 100%, is sharing my story, reading books on mental health because I couldn't afford counseling at this point. So I just
Yeah.
started counseling myself. I started reading get self help books, started reading books on psychology, started reading books on mindset, starting reading books on healing childhood trauma because a lot of my trauma happened while I was a kid. Now I'm an adult with all of this baggage. How do I deal with all of this? If I want to have a relationship, if I want to get married, I have kids, how can I change the trajectory of my future as an adult rather than being someone who takes all of this baggage and ruins the next generations with this pain? How can I end some of these generational curses and trauma by choosing to sit right here, right now, and to put into the work to make it happen when I've never been taught that? That's uncommon to my family. I've never been around it. But I chose to believe in it because at 16-year-old Josh wanted to start carving the path to be who at 16 I would looked up to. So now at 21, I'm like, we can continue that same dream and
Yeah.
tweak it a little bit. And now we can really become the person that I could look into the mirror and be inspired by, be motivated by, but also millions of others of people around the world who may be struggling or may not be struggling. People who just needed to know that they're seen and that they're heard, that there's a choice into choosing self love, and there's a way to motivate people without having this false hope of like, oh, you should be happy every day. I bring a real truthfulness to social media, saying that it's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to not be okay. Not every day is going to be great. Not every month is going to be great. But I can teach people, and while also teaching myself, to admire or to appreciate some of the small moments in each and every day to make it worthwhile, so that I can be here tomorrow, so that I can motivate myself that tomorrow is worth fighting for. Today is worth living for, but tomorrow is worth fighting for, and showing others that tomorrow is worth fighting for rather than just being just today. Let's get through the day. Let's make it to tomorrow, because tomorrow is a new day. It's a whole new day of possibility and insight. And I've been doing that for the last 3.5 years, and
And it's blown up.
it's
It
blown
has blown
up.
up.
And I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to doing what I'm doing today.
You know you're a
I'm
minister,
happy
right?
here.
Do you identify as a minister? Because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, this is a freaking preacher, man.
I
Just,
identify as a motivational speaker, but not as a minister. I
just
just
like,
got my certifications actually.
let's
In
go.
motivational
That's
speaker.
awesome. Come on.
Uh, this one. Because
Just amazing for
I
you.
wanted to take it more seriously. I wanted to have some credentials behind me that all of this work that I've put over 900 or something videos online in the
Yeah.
past three years, and I've been motivating people. But until a few months ago, maybe several months ago, I didn't see myself as a motivational speaker. I just saw myself as someone who's just helping, inspiring, and motivating people. But it then comes to my mind of like, oh, I can make my voice a profession because I'm already doing it.
Of
Why
course
not
you
claim it,
of
and why
course you
not lean more into it and let admire be tangibles of who I am as a person? And that's literally that's how we're here, and that's how
All
I
right.
am who I am.
I love that you got those certifications, and I love all the certifications you'll get probably moving forward. But I just want to tell you, you don't need one of them. You are already freaking qualified, my friend, and you're already doing the work. I have a big ass, kind of deep question, and we'll
Go
just do it
for it.
really fast because I know we got to wrap this up.
Yeah.
I just, it's like I physically can see you as this little boy sitting in your house alone and then looking out that window. That is probably the clearest picture out of everything you said. I could just see it, I feel it. Like, and I'm so curious as someone, I think you're uniquely positioned to answer this question. Uniquely. You have spent years observing other people,
Hmm.
watching.
Hmm.
You have a different lens in this world because of being alive.
Literally, look, literally and mentally.
Literally. And I'm so curious when you look at, because a lot of a lot of what we talked about today was kind of how the outside world sees you and what you've been through. And I just want to know, how do you see the world when you look at people and you observe them and you the little boy spending hours watching them play outside and interact, and now that you're online and you're building community and you've heard so many really personal stories and
Mhm.
being in that coma, hearing the people around you,
Mhm.
when you're observing other people, the way that this world moves, what do you see?
I see that we need more kindness. We need more love. That we're raised in a society to undermine our worth, to undermine our strength, and that we are only validated by our successes or what we can provide for others. But we often don't account for the times where we may not be able to provide, the times where we might not be able to be a prominent leader. And I think it should be a norm that everyone should be entitled to be able to love and to respect themselves without going through the fact that we're raised in a society that your worth is what other people see you. That's what I grew up on, is that I could only validate myself based off of how people validate me. And I think we need to move to a point where people can validate themselves and to empower themselves, because we're not taught to look back and to be amazed by what we've survived, because we've survived 100% of our bad days. We've survived addiction. We've survived car crashes. We've survived suicide attempts. We've survived childbirth. We've survived domestic violence or sexual assault or child abuse. We've survived bullying. You survived things that most people can't even fathom. Everyone has a unique survival path that they've been on, but we're not really taught to really like be amazed by that. Those are trophies. Those are accolades that we will own for the rest of our lives. So why go into adulthood or go through adulthood undermining all the things that we did right by only viewing all of the things that we did wrong? And let's finally take the time, just take a little step back, and to acknowledge the strength that we have collectively and individually, because you can't love someone fully or accurately if you don't actually love yourself. So if we can have more people enacting kindness and love into themselves, giving their own selves power with what they have, they're able to actually be better humans in society, better lovers in their relationships, better parents to their kids, better people at work, and people who are in power at work can be have better relationships with their employees, because
Yes.
people can see each other as more than, rather than looking at someone's face and seeing them as less than. I think we need to see more people for who they are and who they could be, rather than it just being this such, I just looked at your face for 5 seconds and I can already tell that you're a bad person. Like that's what people do right now. They look at people instantly and they project the whole facade onto that, and they can't see nothing but what they see with their eyes. But your eyes can be lying to you. I think we need to work more on that, and it's important for me to show people how we can navigate that journey through self love, through self care, through roses. No, most people don't really get flowers, and most men don't get flowers until they're dead. That's when they get their first flowers sometimes. And so by me being a man in this space, while also being open with my vulnerability, with also being open with my masculinity, and being open with my love for roses and my love for beauty and love and all things that are not masculine, quote unquote, by society. I'm teaching men to tap into who they are, into their own masculinity, letting them know that it's okay to kind of navigate it in a way that they want to. They don't have to be always so stoic. They could be stoic. They don't have to be toxic in that masculinity. They can define it in their own light. They can buy themselves some roses. Their partner may actually buy them roses. Now, I have many people in my community who now buy their husband or buy their boyfriend or buy their fiance or buy their sons flowers, because they never thought about that men don't really get flowers in most cases until they're in the casket. So I'm teaching people how to not only love themselves, but to love and to connect with their communities in ways that we used to as kids. We used to be so friendly with people when we were kids. And as we get older, we become just very self-centered and very out for ourselves. And now I'm kind of bringing people back to build that childlike community building, because that's how we're going to be better people going forward.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. Thank you for your work. You don't have to do any of the stuff that you're doing. You don't have to spend hours of your life pouring into people, turning on whatever light, turning this on, getting the
Yeah.
angle right, the editing that goes into it, the packaging, the design. Like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. And the amount of people that you have impacted, the lives that you've saved, and will continue to do so, I know you'll probably never even fully understand that you're standing before God one day. So I just acknowledge you. I thank you so much for everything. And I want everyone freaking watching this, listening, to go buy one of these hoodies, support this man's work. He has t-shirts, just beautiful sayings. The rose, my daughter's wearing one right now at school. She's walking down those halls with the rose on her, right on her
Yes.
heart. That will be linked in the show notes. Please, please, please go order. I know Christmas is coming up. We can get some product out to our friends and family, support Joshua's work. Is there anything else you want to direct people to?
Please follow me on social media at admirer underscore on Instagram, at admirer on TikTok, or I think it's admirer brand on Facebook. But also, just for anyone who's listening, make sure to take some time out for yourself at least once a week. Well, I would like it to be every day, but I gotta start small. So at least once a week, give yourself a hug and appreciation for just the amazing human being that you are. I mean, we all come from rough times, and sometimes we've done things that we're not necessarily proud of, but we've survived them, and we can choose to overcome them rather than just let them be weights on our souls. So just give give yourself a hug sometimes, and allow yourself to be loved by you rather than always seeking love from others. Allow other love to be in addition to your love rather than being a replacement of your love.
Yeah.
Cool.